President Zelensky talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won.
Are you aware that certain states in the United States are relying on electricity from Canada? Indeed, you did hear that correctly. For many years, Canada has been quietly maintaining the lights in certain regions of the United States. But here's where things get interesting. The United States is increasing the economic pressure on Canada by imposing steep tariffs, and Canada is responding by doing the same. Furthermore, as tensions continue to rise, Canada may very well decide to make a change. By all means, in the event that this occurs, entire regions in the United States could be subjected to significant power shortages, which would have a dramatic impact on the economy. The question now is, how did we arrive here? What exactly is the plan that Canada has in place? First things first, let's get a better understanding of how this trade war got started. Let's break everything down. In the late evening of 2024, while attending a private dinner at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump, who was the president-elect at the time, made a suggestion that caught everyone off guard. He then turned to the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and said something along the lines of, "You know, Canada would do a lot better as America's 51st state." Following a brief period of silence, the guests began to laugh nervously. This caused the room to become quiet again. Almost everyone thought he was joking. After all, it was a pretty ridiculous concept to begin with. On the other hand, Trump continued along in his signature manner. Under the rule of the United States, he asserted, Canadians would have access to a healthcare system that was significantly more advanced and would pay lower taxes. At the time, Trudeau smiled politely, most likely dismissing it as a casual conversation that took place at the dinner table. Still, Trump, what he had to say about it was not yet over. On December 10th, 2024, Trump published a post on Truth Social in which he referred to Trudeau not as the Prime Minister of Canada, but rather as Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. This particular post was published a few days after the previous one. A single post was all that was required to send the internet into a frenzy by itself. Is he being serious? To what extent was this a classic example of Trumpism? There was a range of responses, including amusement, outrage, and complete and utter confusion. After that, the situation became more serious. On the 18th of December, Trump made yet another audacious assertion, stating that a significant number of Canadians were in favor of the idea. In spite of the fact that he did not present any evidence, his supporters continued to run with it. All of a sudden, what had begun as a casual remark made during dinner had transformed into a full-blown political moment. Memes flooded social media, news outlets scrambled to cover the story, and the situation evolved into a full-blown political moment. At the beginning of January 2025, President Trump made the decision to increase the amount of pressure. He made the announcement that the United States would impose a significant tariff of 25% on all imports from Canada if Canada did not strengthen its border security. What is his theory? We are providing Canada with subsidies totaling nearly $300 billion. Why are we acting in such a manner? They might as well be a part of us if we are going to pay for them, because this is the case. It was an unmistakable message. In the event that Canada did not begin to adhere to his regulations, he was going to make things more challenging. The response from Trudeau was finally given on January 7th, 2025, and he did not hold back in any way. According to him, there is not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will ever become a part of the United States of America. He said this to the reporters with a smirk. Trump did not appear to be dissuaded by his resolute refusal. On the contrary, it served to further fuel him. On Christmas Day, December 25th, 2024, he posted another message on Truth Social in which he asserted that if Canada joined the United States, taxes would be reduced by 60%, businesses would double overnight, and Canada would receive a significant portion of the United States military protection. Then, there was yet another move. In a press conference that took place on January 7th, 2025, President Trump made it clear that military action was not an option, but perhaps economic force could be considered. I had no problem with that. His argument was that a merger between the United States and Canada would make both countries safer and would even save the United States money on border security. On top of everything else, he posted a photo that had been altered to show a United States flag that was stretched across both the United States of America and Canada, along with a caption that made reference to the national anthem of Canada. This was a very clear message. Donald Trump was not merely speculating thinking about things. He desired for this to take place. It was officially announced by Trump on February 1st, 2025 that a tariff of 25% would be placed on all Canadian goods. Considering that the date of implementation was February 4th, the Canadian government was incensed. The time that Trudeau and his team spent formulating a response was not wasted. The President of the United States was busy making bold claims online, and Canada was quietly preparing a strategy to fight back against the United States. When Trump returned to Truth Social on February 2nd, he reiterated his position, which he had previously stated. He insisted that Canada should accept its fate as the cherished 51st state and promised that if they agreed, tariffs would be eliminated and military security would be ensured. Furthermore, he insisted that Canada should embrace its destiny. On the other hand, Canada had no intention of capitulating. Instead, they were well on their way to retaliating with their own strategy. In response to President Trump's decision to impose a tariff of 25% on Canadian goods, the government of Canada announced its own set of tariffs, which targeted imports from the United States that were worth a total of $155 billion. Direct trade penalties totaling a hefty $30 billion were included in this. On the other hand, just as tensions appeared to be on the verge of exploding, a temporary truce was reached. On the basis of a direct conversation between President Trump and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, both parties came to the conclusion that they should apply the brakes for a minimum of 30 days. During this pause, additional negotiations would be possible. Yet Canada made it abundantly clear. In the event that the United States resumed its tariffs after the pause, the Canadian government was completely ready to launch its own economic counterattack. It was not the case that Canada was placing all of its eggs in the tariff basket. Officials were already considering other methods of exerting pressure on the situation. Is there a choice? Restricting the access of the United States to important Canadian exports, such as essential minerals and energy products, on which the United States relies heavily. Another strategy involved preventing American companies from submitting bids for contracts with the Canadian government. Perhaps the most audacious action, however, was Canada's decision to shift its focus toward Asia. As an alternative to relying on the United States as its primary buyer of oil and gas, Canada was increasing its exports to countries such as China and Japan. When it came to timing, there was no better option. The expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline was finally finished in May of 2024, bringing its capacity to 890,000 barrels per day, which is nearly 3 times above its previous level. By putting in place this new infrastructure, Canada is now able to ship more oil directly to the Pacific coast. This provides energy-hungry Asian nations with the opportunity to take over a market that was previously dominated by the United States. When it came to making the most of this new reality, Alberta, which is the center of Canada's energy industry, did not waste any time. The Minister of the Environment for Alberta, Rebecca Schultz, traveled to Tokyo in February 2025 to participate in high-level discussions regarding the exportation of liquefied natural gas, LNG. During her meeting with Japanese officials and representatives from major energy companies such as JERA and JOGMEC, she presented Canadian LNG as a reliable and geopolitically secure source of energy. It was much more difficult to ignore the selling points. Canada provided a supply chain that was more reliable and offered shorter shipping times in comparison to other global suppliers. Beginning in September 2024, major refiners in Japan and South Korea, such as ENEOS and GS Caltech, had already begun receiving crude oil shipments from Canada already. Currently, Canada is looking to establish long-term partnerships in the energy sector in the neighborhood. Not only the oil industry was undergoing reorganization, but other industries as well. In addition, the provinces of Canada were getting involved in the argument over the economy. The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, has indicated that his province may stop exporting electricity to states in the United States, such as Minnesota, Michigan, and New York, if the tariffs are not lifted. This was not a light threat at all. Some 1.5 million people in the United States were dependent on that power supply. In the event that Canada went through with its plan, those states might be in for a significant energy crisis. In addition to that, Canada was reevaluating its overall financial and commercial relationships. Rather than placing a significant amount of reliance on the United States, the nation was making efforts to strengthen its economic ties with Europe and the Asia-Pacific region. Trade agreements such as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, with the European Union and the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, provided Canada with new avenues to broaden its exports beyond the borders of North America, something that was not anticipated occurred as the trade war became more intense. The nation of Canada was overcome with a surge of national pride. All over social media, there was a buzz of hashtags encouraging people in Canada to support locally owned businesses and to shop locally. People made a concerted effort to move away from products made in the United States, and this effort was seen everywhere from grocery stores to clothing brands. A note was taken by the government as well. An issue that had been a problem for a long time, the Trudeau administration started looking into ways to eliminate the barriers that existed between the provinces in terms of their internal trade. If Canada were to make it simpler for businesses to sell their products across the country, it would be able to develop a more robust domestic market, which would make it less susceptible to the economic pressure that the United States exerts. Beyond the scope of trade disputes, Trudeau was becoming increasingly concerned about something that was taking place behind closed doors. An unsettling possibility was brought up by him during a private meeting in Toronto with prominent figures from the Canadian business and labor communities. What if Trump's ultimate objective was not simply to gain economic leverage, but rather something else entirely? He drew attention to the fact that Trump had asserted on multiple occasions that Canada would be in a better position if it were a part of the United States. These remarks were initially dismissed as jokes by those who heard them. But Trudeau was no longer so certain about it. In Mr. Trump's mind, the most straightforward approach to accomplishing this goal is to take over our nation, and he cautioned that it is a genuine phenomenon. From Trudeau's perspective, the United States of America was not only interested in trade, they had their sights set on the vast natural resources that Canada possessed. Oil, minerals, and fresh water are all resources that the United States would be able to take advantage of if it were to somehow gain control of Canada. This realization made the subsequent actions that Canada would take even more urgent. Not only was it important to survive a tariff battle, but it was also important to strengthen trade ties with other countries, boost domestic production, and reinforce economic independence. They were concerned with safeguarding the future of Canada. Canada has been a significant source of vital resources for the United States of America for many years. Oil, natural gas, metals, and other commodities are included. However, something has been different as of late. The remarks made by President Donald Trump in a casual manner about the possibility of Canada becoming a part of the United States were initially dismissed as jokes. Nevertheless, people are beginning to wonder whether there is more to it than meets the eye. This is not merely a matter of diplomacy. It pertains to the resources. They are quite large. The United States of America is dependent on the natural wealth that Canada possesses, which is a gold mine, and the majority of people are unaware of the extent of this dependence. Let us dissect it in detail. When it comes to the United States and Canada, oil is the one thing that brings them together. Every single day, Canada is responsible for the production of approximately 4.6 million barrels of oil, making it the fourth largest world producer of oil. Can you guess where the vast majority of it is going? You have it right, completely to the United States of America. Over 97% of Canada's oil exports are shipped south, where it is processed by refineries in the United States and distributed throughout the country. To put it another way, the U.S. energy system would be in a precarious position if it did not have access to oil from Canada. The vast majority of this oil originates from Alberta, which is home to the enormous oil sands that have transformed Canada into a dominating force in the world of energy. While the province of Alberta is responsible for 87% of Canada's total oil exports, additional production comes from the province of Saskatchewan as well as offshore fields in the provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador. Petroleum Administration for Defense Districts, or PADs, are the regions that the United States is responsible for dividing its oil imports into. Moreover, Canada is a significant player in each and every one of them. PAD-2 is located in the Midwest. This location receives 61.8% of the oil that is produced in Canada. For the most part, this region is dependent on Canada. Third of the Gulf Coast, PAD-3, 18.6%, a significant portion that is essential for refining and spreading. PAD-5 is located on the West Coast. It is 7.2%. The oil from Canada is essential for California and other states. This is Rocky Mountain, PAD-4, 6.8% is what powers the central United States. PAD-1 is located on the East Coast. Although it is a small percentage, 2.6% is still significant. It is one of the most important factors that contributes to the growth of the Canadian economy, because the total value of Canada's oil trade with the United States is an astounding $124 billion annually. Pipelines such as Keystone, Enbridge Mainline, and Trans Mountain, which are part of the infrastructure that connects the two countries, guarantee a consistent flow of crude oil, which in turn maintains stable prices and ensures that refineries operate without any problems. In the event that something were to impede that flow, it would not be a problem that existed solely for Canada. Most of the attention is focused on oil, which would be a crisis for the United States. One more significant component of the energy equation between the United States and Canada is natural gas. The natural gas production in Canada is estimated to be 17.9 billion cubic feet per day in 2023, making it the fifth largest natural gas producer in the world. Similar to the way that oil is transported, a significant portion of that gas, which amounts to approximately 7.9 billion cubic feet per day, is transported directly to the United States. As a result, Canada is an essential supplier, contributing to the heating of homes in the United States and the powering of industries all over the country. The provinces of Alberta and British Columbia are the primary sources of this natural gas, with Alberta independently producing 121 billion cubic meters of natural gas each year. Large reserves can be found in these provinces, particularly in shale formations, which are essential for satisfying future petroleum requirements. The fact that natural gas exports brought in a total of $13 billion in revenue for Canada in 2023 demonstrates once more that energy is not merely a trade asset. Rather, it is the foundation of the Canadian economy. Given the escalating tensions regarding trade and tariffs, a number of Canadian officials have begun to question the extent to which this partnership can continue to be bilateral for an extended period of time. Despite the fact that nickel is not as well known as oil or gas, it is just as important, particularly as the world moves toward electric vehicles. The amount of nickel that Canada produced in 2023 was 158,768 tons, making it the sixth largest producer of nickel in the world. The rich nickel deposits in the country are dispersed across the provinces of Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Manitoba, with Ontario being the most productive of the quartet, accounting for 39% of the total production. Now, however, things start to take an interesting turn. It is estimated that the United States receives nearly half of Canada's nickel exports. China, Japan, and the Netherlands are also important buyers, but the United States of America continues to be the most important customer. Is it important to know this? Due to the fact that nickel is necessary for the production of stainless steel and lithium-ion batteries, which are the type of batteries used in electric vehicles and for the storage of renewable energy. The demand for nickel is skyrocketing as a result of the global push toward environmentally friendly technology. While Indonesia holds a dominant position in the market with 51% of the global production, Canada continues to be an important supplier for Western countries. In addition, as tensions between the United States and China continue to rise, the United States may be paying a significant amount of attention to its northern neighbor in order to ensure the availability of a reliable and friendly nickel source. Cans of soda and airplanes are probably the first things that come to mind when you think of aluminum. However, this lightweight metal is also an essential material for a variety of industries, including the construction industry and the defense industry. Is that Canada? It ranks fourth in the world in terms of aluminum production, with 3 million metric tons produced in 2022, making it a global heavyweight in the production of aluminum. The demand for nickel is skyrocketing as a result of the global push toward environmentally friendly technology. While Indonesia holds a dominant position in the market with 51% of the global production, Canada continues to be an important supplier for Western countries. In addition, as tensions between the United States and China continue to rise, the United States may be paying a significant amount of attention to its northern eastern neighbor in order to ensure the availability of a reliable and friendly nickel source. Cans of soda and airplanes are probably the first things that come to mind when you think of aluminum. However, this lightweight metal is also an essential material for a variety of industries, including the construction industry and the defense industry. Is that Canada? It ranks fourth in the world in terms of aluminum production, with 3 million metric tons produced in 2022, making it a global heavyweight in the production of aluminum. The United States of America is once again the largest buyer thanks to the export revenue generated by this industry alone, which amounts to $14.2 billion. Considering the extent to which aluminum is utilized in the manufacturing and infrastructure sectors, ensuring a consistent supply is of utmost importance for the economy of the United States. At first glance, it may appear that Trump's comments about NX and Canada are nothing more than another one of his impromptu remarks. In spite of this, a pattern begins to become apparent when one investigates the numbers. As an ally, Canada is more than that. As a source of vital resources that ensure the continued operation of the United States, it serves as a vital lifeline for the nation. Is it oil? Canada is the primary source of imports for the United States. Natural gas? A necessity for the homes and businesses of the United States. Is it nickel? Important for electric vehicles and batteries and their use. What about aluminum? Manufacturing, defense, and construction all rely on it strongly. In the event that Canada ever makes the decision to shift its trade focus to other countries, such as China or Japan, it has the potential to send shockwaves via the economy of the United States. The United States government is paying close attention to Canada's recent efforts to diversify its exports. Because of this reason, with the tensions continuing to rise, it is possible that the United States will find itself in need of Canada much more than Canada needs the United States. Canada is not only a country that is known for its beautiful landscapes and its courteous people. The world is dependent on the natural resources that are contained within this gold mine. Canada provides the United States of America and a great number of other countries with the raw materials that are necessary for their economies to function properly. These raw materials include hydroelectric power, precious metals, and oil and uranium. In what ways, however, are these resources valuable? And why do so many nations, including the United States of America, rely on them to such a significant degree? Let us delve deeply into the factors that contribute to Canada's status as an economic powerhouse. The Canadian economy is thriving, and aluminum is one of the country's most important exports. The aluminum industry in the country had a value of $16.5 billion in 2024, and its revenue had been growing at a consistent rate of 2.3% per year over the course of the previous 5 years. What is causing this expansion? There is a significant advantage. As well as rising global demand and increasing exports, solar and wind power are used in the manufacturing of aluminum in Canada. The production of aluminum in Canada is primarily powered by hydroelectricity, which makes it cleaner and more environmentally friendly than the production of aluminum in many other countries, which requires coal or fossil fuels to produce aluminum. This is a significant matter, particularly in light of the fact that businesses all over the world are working to reduce their carbon emissions. It is also the reason why countries such as the United States, which imports $13 billion, Mexico, which imports $363 million, and India, which imports $79 million, are dependent on aluminum from Canada. Zinc might not be the most talked about element, but it is extremely important in today's world. Canada is one of the leading producers of this invaluable metal, which is primarily utilized for the purpose of preventing rust from forming on steel. Therefore, it can be found in a wide variety of things, ranging from automobiles and ships to bridges and skyscrapers. Canada mined a total of 250,000 metric tons of zinc in 2022, with the majority of the zinc coming from the provinces of Manitoba and Quebec. Although there was a slight decrease in production compared to the previous year, zinc exports still brought in a total of $1.25 billion in revenue in the year 2023. Where is it going to go? Some of the most significant purchasers include South Korea, Switzerland, Australia, and the United States of America. These countries are all dependent on Canada to supply them with this essential material for their manufacturing and construction industries. Canada is a significant player in the gold industry, and it currently holds the 5th spot in the world in terms of production. The amount of gold that was mined in Canada in 2022 was 205.8 tons. tons, which was equivalent to 5% of the total global output. Gold is a valuable commodity not only for its use in jewelry, but also for its investment and industrial applications, which makes it an essential resource for the technology and financial sectors. Gold from Canada is not confined to its borders. It is distributed all over the world. By 2022, Canada had reached the seventh largest exporter of gold in the world, with gold exports reaching a total of $14.7 billion. The fact that the United Kingdom, Switzerland, the United States of America, Hong Kong, and Singapore were among the top buyers demonstrates that there is a significant demand for gold from Canada. Uranium is the resource that makes Canada a strategic energy powerhouse. It is undoubtedly the most important resource. In the field of nuclear energy, this radioactive metal is absolutely necessary, and Canada is fortunate enough to be located on some of the highest-grade uranium deposits in the entire world. The majority of Canada's uranium is extracted from the Athabasca Basin, which is located in the northern part of Saskatchewan, and is renowned for its exceptionally abundant deposits. In contrast to a great number of other uranium sources, these mines generate ore with concentrations that are significantly higher than the average for the entire world. As a result, they are among the most valuable in the world. In the year 2022, Canada was the second largest producer of uranium in the world, having produced 7,451 tons of uranium. This accounted for 15% of the total demand for uranium around the world. It was a significant increase from the 4,793 tons that were produced the year before, which reflects a significant recovery in production. Where exactly does all of this uranium end up? A total of nearly 12,000 tons were shipped out of Canada in 2022, resulting in a revenue of $11.38 billion. The United States of America, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Germany were among the most important customers. These countries all rely on uranium from Canada to power their nuclear power plants. As more nations look to nuclear power as a cleaner energy alternative, Canada is planning to increase its uranium production by a factor of 2 by the year 2035. The United States of America is one of the few countries that excels in the field of clean energy. Canada is a global leader in hydroelectric power, producing 61.7% of its electricity from hydropower. In 2022, it ranked third worldwide, generating 394,000 gigawatt-hours. Quebec leads with 41,000 megawatts, followed by British Columbia, Newfoundland and Labrador, Ontario, and Manitoba. Beyond domestic use, Canada exported over 50 terawatt-hours of electricity to the U.S. in 2022, earning $5.5 billion and supporting grids in key states like New York and New England. Canada's vast natural resources make it a major player in global trade. It provides essential materials like aluminum, zinc, uranium, and potash. The country is also one of the world's top diamond producers, with its ethically sourced stones in high demand. In 2023, Canada produced 16.2 million carats, exporting $1.7 billion worth of diamonds. Its potash industry dominates the global market, producing 13 million metric tons in 2023, generating $16.8 billion and ensuring food security worldwide. The forestry industry remains a powerhouse, contributing $45.6 billion annually. Canada leads in newsprint production, supplying major markets like the US, China, and Japan. While softwood lumber exports declined, printing paper and newsprint saw significant growth. Canada's trade relationship with the US remains strong, accounting for 56% of its mineral exports in 2023. However, amid growing economic tensions, Canada is seeking to diversify trade, strengthening ties with Asia and Europe. This shift is driven not just by economics, but also by sovereignty concerns, as Canada resists external pressures to compromise its independence. The next phase of its economic strategy could redefine its global standing.